Imagine this. Your grandfather spends a lifetime working, building, collecting things he loves, only for his spoiled, entitled heirs to treat his treasures like disposable toys. But what they didn't know was that Grandpa had one final trick waiting for them. A trick so perfectly petty, it left them furious and humiliated, long after he was gone. If you've ever wished that karma would finally catch up to the selfish, greedy people in your life, then hit that like button right now. Subscribe for more true stories of revenge, and get ready, because this one is a masterclass in how to make sure spoiled brats never get the satisfaction they think they deserve. My grandfather was complicated. Not exactly the warm and fuzzy family type. To be honest, most people didn't like him very much, and he didn't really care. But there were two things he did care about: his collection of valuables and making sure none of us idiots accidentally hurt ourselves. You see, Grandpa was the type of man who could fix anything, build anything, survive anything. And he spent his whole life working hard, saving, and carefully curating a collection of rare, expensive, and sometimes dangerous collectibles. Meanwhile, his sons and grandsons, spoiled, entitled, completely incapable of following instructions. Grandpa saw it. He knew they weren't responsible enough to take care of anything. But he also knew his wife would outlive him, which meant eventually his prized collection would fall into the hands of people who treated priceless items like Happy Meal toys. Let me introduce you to two of the stars of this story. First, there's Smeagol. And yes, I call him that because he's exactly what you're picturing. Greedy, whiny, obsessed with his precious inheritance. He was the oldest and he got everything. Then there's Kyle. Now, Kyle is the kind of guy who could be trusted with a paper cup and still find a way to ruin it. Entitled, careless. The kind of guy who borrows something without asking, breaks it and shrugs it off. These two, plus a handful of equally useless cousins, were about to become the reason Grandpa pulled off one of the pettiest revenge schemes I've ever witnessed. Grandpa had already put up with a lot. People sneaking into his collection, borrowing items without asking, returning them dirty, broken, or worse. But the breaking point came with Kyle. One day, Grandpa realized one of his rare collectibles, a 14-gauge shotgun, worth more than Kyle's souped-up rust bucket of a car, was missing. After searching, we finally found it. Sitting outside, on the porch, in the rain. I'll never forget the look on Grandpa's face when he saw it. Rusted, dirty, abandoned. He yelled at Kyle for hours. And for the first time, I think Kyle actually looked afraid. But Grandpa wasn't just mad. He was planning something. Here's where Grandpa got brilliantly petty. He asked Grandma to drive him to the bank. He walked out with a thick stack of $1,000 bills. And then he bought himself a beater truck at an auction for just $200. Why? Because he knew the truck would eventually be destroyed by the family anyway, just like every other vehicle they touched. But the real plan? Oh, that was genius. Back home, Grandpa cleaned the rusted shotgun. Then, while muttering to himself and fuming over how careless Kyle had been, he started rolling those $1,000 bills, one by one, into little loose, crumpled balls. And he shoved them into a barrel. A barrel he kept locked away with the rest of his collection. I remember watching him, baffled. He was angry, yes. But there was also a twisted sort of joy in the way he worked. Like he knew he was setting up something his greedy heirs would never see coming. Eventually, Grandpa passed away. And just like everyone expected, Smeagol got the keys to his collection. He and Kyle wasted no time. They invited over a group of 5 equally clueless cousins and decided they were finally free to play with all of Grandpa's no-touch collectibles. They didn't respect them. They didn't honor his memory. They treated the collection like it was a frat party toy chest. And that's when they stumbled onto Grandpa's little surprise. Now let me explain something. Grandpa's collection wasn't just valuable. It was dangerous if mishandled. Guns, ammunition, things you never mess around with unless you know exactly what you're doing. So when the idiots found a sealed barrel, they thought, oh, more toys. They didn't bother to check. They didn't think, maybe we should be careful. Nope. They opened it up like kids on Christmas morning. What they didn't realize was that inside that barrel wasn't just collectibles. It was Grandpa's hidden stash. His inheritance confetti, as he used to call it. Rolled up wads of cash, disguised and tucked in among items that made no sense to anyone but him. They thought they'd hit the jackpot. But here's the kicker. They had no idea how much money was actually in there. And because they were idiots, they immediately started testing, handling, and basically destroying things they didn't understand. The chaos was, honestly, exactly what Grandpa would have wanted. When word got around, it didn't take long for things to spiral. The cousins turned on each other. Smeagol accused Kyle of losing some of the stash. Kyle blamed Smeagol for not securing it. The others tried to grab their share before anyone else could. And meanwhile, Grandma, probably sick of the drama, ended up selling one of Grandpa's most prized items, a .308 rifle, for way less than it was worth. Ironically, she sold it for less than I had offered. That's when I became the villain in their eyes. The hated one. The outsider, who apparently wasn't entitled to anything but somehow still managed to expose their greed. But honestly, I didn't care. 'Cause I could see it. Even from beyond the grave, Grandpa had played them like fiddles. He knew they'd ruin everything. He knew they'd fight. He knew they'd show their true colors. And he made sure his precious collection didn't just hand them wealth, it handed them chaos. The most satisfying part. Watching Smeagol and Kyle realize they hadn't inherited riches. They'd inherited a puzzle. Trap. A petty, messy, brilliant plan designed to highlight their incompetence. Instead of living large on Grandpa's hard-earned fortune, they ended up fighting over scraps, selling treasures for pennies, and proving to everyone exactly what Grandpa always said. They don't deserve it. And they never will. Grandpa may not have been the easiest man to love. But in the end, he got the last laugh. So what's the lesson here? Maybe it's that greed blinds you. Or maybe it's that you should never underestimate a stubborn old man with too much time, too much money, and a wicked sense of humor. Either way, Grandpa made sure his spoiled heirs got what they deserved. Not riches, not glory, chaos. If this story gave you chills, hit that like button and tell us in the comments. What's the pettiest revenge you've ever seen someone pull off? And don't forget to subscribe, because we've got plenty more stories of sweet, sweet karma coming your way.